Hi, today we have Mayank Bhatwal with us, MD of Aditya Birla Health. Apart from that, he's also having an experience of life insurance and he's a chartered accountant by profession. So, sir, I'll directly start shooting some questions with your experience. You are also a chartered accountant and you started your insurance career on the finance side as a CFO, including in BSLI, and then switched over to the distribution side. As a CEO today, you're heading this health vertical. So I would expect you to your responses both from LI and HI. Of course, HI is more critical because of current experience. So, what would be your thought process on when we talk about digitization? All of us are talking digitization. Digitization, according to me, is not just automation. So, what layers or what levels have we passed on from the beginning, let's say last 24, 25 years, on life side, health side, on the digitization piece? And are we there, or what else can we do? Just to start with.
Yeah, that's a firstly, thank you, Ganesh, for this conversation. You're right. I think it's a very important subject for any business to today ponder on and see where are we versus what the opportunity is. And generally, insurance industry, has been seen, if you talk to many people, has been seen as more traditional than not, right? And therefore, the initiation of this whole assimilation of digitization or digital as a way of thinking in the industry, is something that is still work in progress overall. If I'm to give you a kind of 30,000 feet kind of a sense of mine. Having said that, there are clearly entities, businesses which have done much more than the others.
You mean entities with insurance industry or other industries?
Within insurance in particular, we're talking insurance right now, right? So first is in the beginning, when you spoke to anyone about digitization, they would say, I have a process here, I take it to a technology platform, and that is digitization. And that's how it started, right? I think I would say most of the forward-looking companies did that job over the last 24 years reasonably well. And if you look at anyone leading in the space of whether it's life insurance or health insurance, and my bias will be more towards health insurance because I've been away from life for some time now. To that extent, my understanding of life would be maybe slightly dated. But that job, I think most people have done reasonably well now, of taking their existing processes to a technology platform. But where the big difference is that in what is true digitization is where you're completely reimagining the existing journeys and say this is how a digital first organization will look at, right? So automation may actually take your process, let's say, from a 7-day time frame to a 3-day time frame. But digitization actually may take that process from a 3-day time frame to a 3-second time frame. And I think that's the big difference, because then you start thinking of how is the customer of today used to interacting with a digital first entity. So if my customer is going and buying something on Amazon, or experiencing something in Google, or experiencing something, let's say, on a Zomato or a Swiggy, where they're present every day, or let's say in Insta or a Facebook, are they getting similar experience in insurance? I think that's where the whole process of reimagining. When you reimagine, it will not happen suddenly, right? Because the first new message is no, it cannot happen. But I think that's where the journey is. In some cases, it has happened well, some not, and we can talk about more detail in that. But I think I would say we are still work in progress on the second part. Right?
So when we are talking about this, of course we have a lot to leverage. Now, what are the challenges you think which is stopping us? Like usage of the best of credit scores, or centralized medical records. What we need for digitization is a complete ecosystem. The credit score is required from the financial point of view. Account aggregators obviously are there now. Then the centralized medical repository. Unfortunately, we don't have centralized medical records. Or any other in the insurance repository is now coming. What are the challenges? Because even today, the take up of the AAs are not good, or even in the life side when bank statements are needed. What do you think is the reason?
I think it differs from industry to industry, right? Are people using credit score? I think they are. Many people are now underwriting based on credit score.
Yes.
So what used to take, and they are making credit score as a very good proxy, at least in life. Many companies are doing this because over a period of time they have realized that credit score is a very good proxy for immortality. In some sense. So they are using that score at least for a very reasonable level of underwriting. But let's pick up an concrete example. Then I think these things become clearer. Let's pick up an example of claims in health insurance. If I look at the experience of my partner in South Africa, 96% of claims paperless, humanless.
Wow.
The consumer goes to a pharmacy, gives a policy number. The pharmacy is fully integrated with the insurance company. Gives a number, the system checks the eligibility. If it is fully eligible, customer walks out. The customer has to pay X%, customer pays, walks out. Customer goes to the hospital, there's a pre-approval, the system defines, the data flows from the hospital to the insurance company in standard international coded format. The system reads that, checks against policy eligibility, system adjudicates. That's it. Now, what are the prerequisites for this? Yeah. One is the entire healthcare system today leveraging technology, digital, and making the data available in standard format? The answer to that is no. Correct. So it's not about the problem with the insurance company alone. Correct. The issue is that if the data today, let's not even go to pharmacy, right? Let's stay with the hospital. How does information flow? Till some time back, it used to flow on scanned images and PDFs, etc., through emails, etc. Today, many of us get that information through the pipes of integration pipes where information flows. But is it still flowing in standard data formats? No, it's still not flowing, right? So the first problem has to be solved at the end of the hospital, because if that data is flowing through in coded formats, then my system can read it like that, check it against eligibility. But we have started finding workarounds. So we are now working with players who can actually quickly convert that data, digitize that data from whatever format the information is coming, code them, and then check in the eligibility. And about 30-40% of our claims are actually happening the way I spoke about South Africa, where information flows through, system adjudicates, okay, because we're now testing it, maybe some human intervention required, but technically those claims can be humanless, paperless.
Perfect.
Ultimately. So it's a ecosystem issue and not just the insurance industry issue, because it depends on what the ecosystem is. And we would love to get there, because finally that's what consumers are expecting.
I think the pharmacies there are controlled by bigger chains, exactly, like the Costco's and all those.
It can happen.
Whereas in India, pharmacies, I can open up a pharmacy and every gully has got 7 stores.
Exactly. So the healthcare ecosystem in India is very fragmented, very I would say non-standardized. There's no single regulatory framework which defines everything in terms of how information should flow. But I'm hoping that ABDHM, the Ayushman Bharat Digital Health Mission, which the government is talking about, if the day it becomes a reality, every consumer will have their health data in standard coded formats, etc., at one place. Now, if an insurance company can use that data, I can do underwriting in seconds. Correct. I can do claims processing in seconds. So it's a whole ecosystem, which is like what is happening in, let's say, UPI. What is happening in, you spoke about account aggregators. I think it has started. I don't think so. We are too far away where when we are underwriting, any policy, if consumer consents, if that data comes, I think the whole process will be much more seamless and truly digital in the way it should be.
Lovely. So do you think we have all the products which are generally there in the international markets on the health side, let's say, if we thought? So whatever health products are there on the insurance side in other developed markets. Do we have all of them over here right now? Or we are unable to bring them for some reason or the other?
No, all of them are not there. Example again, in health insurance, if you see, we are still primarily what is called inpatient, which means get to the hospital and get covered, get paid. I think a large part of the healthcare expenditure is happening outside of the hospital, doctors, pharmacies, diagnostic, and not necessarily in the context of a hospitalization event. I may be sick, I'm going to the doctor, I may be having a headache, I'm buying a medicine, etc. Right? So policies to cover that is still not available. Again, the reason to some extent is the fragmentation of the industry, whether fraud, waste, abuse can happen. Is that industry using technology fully? So if that part of the whole play is completely digitized, working on technology, and now we're starting to offer that in the corporate space at least, where we offer OPD completely for corporate employees because it's more controlled, and many big part of that is happening cashless. If that starts happening and data starts flowing in, the whole ability for the industry to kind of create a very different consumer experience using health data and the role it can play of not just a health funder but a health influencer, health partner, I think the opportunities are like mind-boggling, and I wish we get there. But technology, digital will play a big role in making that happen.
So when we spoke about digital technology, a large part of India is, let's say, 60% plus is agri farmers. Though it doesn't contribute to the economy of the country, but at least in terms of numbers, etc., on paper it is there. And how do we reach out there? Okay, our current processes will not work. So how do you think can we underwrite people, like self-employed people? The biggest problem which we face is documentation of self-employed people, documentation of the farmers. So we don't have income proof, we don't know what is their exact wealth. They may have a Mercedes, incidentally. And how do we underwrite those set of people? So in that thing, and what do you think? Or when we talk about, this is the financial part, medical part also, when we say there are places where we don't have good diagnostic centers, right? I remember when I used to head the medical networking piece, in some parts of East, we couldn't organize proper medical checkups for our customers, pre-policy checkup. There were challenges. So how do we still do health underwriting or a life underwriting in such situations?
Yeah,
now composite licenses aa jayega, so we may want to do a cross sell.
See, every problem is an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
The point is, does this segment of the Indian population deserve to have a life insurance and health insurance policy? Of course they do. Let's look at both the aspects of underwriting and also claims. Let's say financial underwriting. Today, most of these people have a Jandhan account, thanks to the effort of the government over the last 10 years, that we now, bank accounts have become more of a have than a have not, as it used to be a decade back. So can the balance in that account be a proxy for financial underwriting? Worth thinking about, because you may not have income proofs, but you have the fact that this individual is having a bank account. So there is a formalization, financial formalization of even that segment of population in many ways, right? And you can see what's the inflow and outflow in that account to start creating proxies of what I call financial, because I don't think so that segment is looking at where there is no I would say income proxies to kind of look at very large sum assured, etc. They need a certain basic let's say level of term insurance, etc. I think we can start thinking about that, is my personal view. In health insurance, in any case, it's not so much about financial underwriting, it's more about medical underwriting. In medical underwriting, the issue of in any case, it's about what are they declaring, etc., and not so much of existing records. As and when ABDHM becomes a reality and primary care is taken to these hinterlands of the country and there is data, I think we can start using that. I think the issue is what you said second, that where is the delivery infrastructure for health insurance, right? With life insurance, that's not the problem to solve. I'm hoping that the one part of the Ayushman Bharat mission, this whole is the whole funding of actual healthcare cost. The other part is also the what was the health and wellness center, 150,000 health and wellness centers. I'm again hoping that that will become a reality, because that will create access to primary healthcare, including both the doctors, etc., and the diagnostic. With that will happen within that. Once that happens, then access is available. But in the till that happens, one thing which is clearly becoming a trend is digital health.
Yeah.
Today there are enough and more not just experiments but real solutions available, where using finger scan, face scan, you can kind of get a sense of the health of the individual kind of reasonably accurately at about 90-95% accuracy. And I think that's a great start. So even if you don't have full diagnostics to kind of, let's say, get a prick, finger prick to get blood and do the proper blood test, there are enough technology available through face scan, through, as I said, finger scan, etc. And I think newer opportunities are emerging. We'll have to start making sure that we are using these new emerging technologies, and which goes back to your earlier question. Technology and digital are going to change many of these things going forward, and I think the question is the industry leveraging them? We have to. I mean, I don't think that we have an option to not leverage. At least at Aditya Birla Health Insurance, I remember pre-COVID we used to do these physical health assessments, etc., because in our case we encourage our consumers to at least know their health and we pay for it. Post-COVID, because of our adoption of these digital technologies, digital health technologies, about 70-80% of these interventions are using digital health ecosystems, and we use face scan, and we're getting about 95% accuracy. And if there is a problem, then we can encourage the consumer to go and do a physical, because it creates convenience. Consumers are seeking convenience, and that's what it does.
Are the insurers supporting it?
Yeah, absolutely, because these are all globally tested, kind of technologies. In fact, now I don't think so it has started in India, but again, if I go to my partner in South Africa, the entire life underwriting is being done based on face scan, because it's a great proxy for your actual health. That will also take away the potential non-disclosure, misdeclaration, which is again an issue, because the only thing you have to make sure is that the same individual is taking the scan, which is a proposer in any case, correct? Yeah.
So are these technology solutions able to give all pathological and radiological findings?
No, of course not. It is right now, it's in the process of developing. For example, blood pressure, resting heart rate, oxygen levels, and there are a few other metrics, about 17-18 metrics which the system gives. Metrics like blood sugar level, etc., are in advanced level of testing. There they've already reached about 85% accuracy. I'm sure in the next 6 to 9, 12 months it will become even higher. If you look at what's happening in the wearable space, look at the rings, right? This is an ultra human ring today, and if similar to, I'm glad that an Indian company has come out, something which is as accurate as, let's say, the famous Aura ring globally, and it gives you metrics which are mind-boggling in terms of your sleep pattern, and sleep is a great proxy for health. If you kind of look at the sleep pattern of any prospect, it is a very good reflection of what their health will be. So I'm saying, as we start using this data, I am extremely positive about the impact that these newer emerging digital technologies can help, the way it can help in insurance industry. We have to adopt them. Yeah. That's important.
So at Aditya Birla Health, you started the wearables thing, right? The technology and telemedicine obviously is there. So what is the take-up fraction, and do you think I believe you're also incentivizing customers, saying that if you feed this data, then next year's renewal premium is benefits are given over there. So can you elaborate on that? Is it picking up, or what are the challenges in that not moving at a scale which you would have wanted to move?
No, it's picked up at a great speed. About 30% of our adult customers, and we do it more for adult right now, we'll take it to children also later on. 30% of our adult customers for products which have these benefits start their journey on this. Actually more, because our journey is this. I mean, know your health, improve your health, and get rewarded. If something happens, stay protected. That's our mantra.
Correct.
So the journey has to start with know your health. So about 45-50% of our adult members download the app. That's the start of the journey. They would use digital health, or if they want physical health kind of opportunities, to kind of start their journey on knowing their health, which comes at around 30 odd percent. About 15 to 20 odd percent consumers are doing something about their health. Right now we are focusing more on the physical side till we find a solution on nutrition also. And about 8 to 10% of our customers are then actually earning incentives. These are by global standards, we are well ahead of where others are, to be able to engage with such large mass of Indian consumers, where health has not been as important a goal as it should be by global standards, to make this impact. And over 8 years we have made this happen, because we have consistently communicated with consumers that we are actually more of a health partner to you and not just a health funder. We'll of course fund when it comes to that, but we want to start the journey by helping you kind of get to know where your health is, because our belief is, if consumer is healthy, we are healthy, right? That's our whole business philosophy. And I think in that process, we've made a big headway. We're very proud of what we've achieved. We're very proud of the fact that we've actually, in many ways, created a new category, as a lens through which the health insurance industry should be viewed as. We're glad that other competitors are now starting to think like us, and they're coming in with similar propositions. Though I just wish that they come in sooner than what we are seeing, because that's how insurance should be. And consumers are now, we have got thousands and thousands of stories of consumers working with us, seeing us as more of a health partner of theirs, and we'll stay on course for this for sure.
Great. So has this reduced the claims by any chance?
Of course. So the segment of our consumers which engages with us on their health, claims are lower by about 5 or 6% in absolute terms, which is a very large, impact area, because 5-6%, like against, let's say, a 50%, if you have 45% claim ratio, the entire 5% flows through to your bottom line, which you can then decide to pass on to customers, either as some benefits to them, or as price reduction, or as newer variations, newer experiments, newer pilots, which what the industry needs.
True. So, of course, now that's a good news that is brought in by 5-6%. Otherwise, and you'd agree that our industry is full of frauds. A lot. It's not something which is ignorable. And unfortunately, in our country, insurance frauds are like catch me if you can. Okay, because there are no laws which punishes anybody. Okay, Section 420 hai, even the new law is just a re-questioning from English to Hindi name, you can say. It is not brought in as insurance fraud or any financial crime as a crime. So if I get a claim, I get it. If I lose it, I just lose my premium. It's a gamble for me.
That's true.
And in this catch me if you can, per se, it is like, if I have to repudiate a claim as an insurer, I have to wait for the customer to give me the document. Now, why to document day, I reject your claim. So, how do you think this can be managed in a better, or is it improving, or we have to do something at an ecosystem level, and as an industry, can we take up something on this side? I had tried my level best in the initial days, 2015, saying, please, Insurance Act mein dekho, even why should we pay frauds? The regulator is measuring you, saying the claims ratio has to be good. But if I am repudiating a claim which is a fraud, am I not doing good for the other people? Somewhere this education, I think we need to reverse impart to the regulator.
Yeah, no, I don't think the regulator doesn't understand this, to be fair. I think the fact that the Insurance Institute, the Insurance Information Bureau was created by the regulator, kind of get started in this journey. You have to give credit to the regulator in terms of the thought process. So, but it's a complex subject, right? Because it's not a subject that the insurance industry in its current ecosystem can alone solve. Again, the whole healthcare ecosystem comes in this, where we don't necessarily have a control. We can only influence them, because they don't come in the ambit of the insurance regulator. And regulator will only pass some guidelines, etc., which we can wish that they follow. So there are 2-3 ways to look at it. I think the important point which you raised is, if there's a financial fraud in the area of banking, which is clearly defined, and there are implications, right? If you do a fraud today in banking, you get impacted through your CIBIL score. It
Yes.
takes away your ability to be a participant in the financial ecosystem as far as banking is concerned. So you suffer if your CIBIL score is lower. You get higher rates, or you don't get a loan, etc., etc. Right? So there are implications. So as an industry, we have been asking for a definition, similar definition of insurance fraud, so that there are implications, whether it's consumer, whether it's distributor, whether whoever is the responsible person for that. We still haven't got an answer, but that's something that we will keep requesting regulator and the government to kind of find a way to put that in, because that's a very important deterrent for fraudsters to come be in some way penalized. The other thing is that IIB as a body, as it is maturing, it is helping the industry deal with this issue of fraud, waste, abuse, at least fraud part, much more meaningfully than
True.
otherwise. Because as an insurance company, if I use my data, it is X volume of data. All of us know that in the area of data analytics, the more data, the more powerful the kind of outcome, right? So if you're combining the entire data set of all the insurance companies, it becomes much more powerful in the way it can give you insights on where something wrong is happening. So with IIB now being headed by someone very senior, IIB now investing in technology, IIB using industry data, and though it is only for industry specific, life to life, health to
I was
health,
going to come to that point.
at some stage, if they start even combining life data and health data, it will be very powerful.
It has to be like that, isn't it? Probably, are they expecting the industry to push it? That means life and health and general companies come and then, because according to me, as you rightly said, big data, it comes only when it is really big. Suppose, for example, if anybody does an insurance, health insurance fraud, so is likely to do a
Absolutely.
life insurance fraud and and similarly motor side. Now, if we take the other way around, I mean, I'm not looking at only an insured life. I'm looking at a person perpetrating it. Suppose if I had done an insurance fraud as a nominee, and if that data is captured, so as a nominee, I may be using a car as a consumer, I may be going for health insurance, or I may be a nominee in some other parent of mine or spouse of mine. So when we talk about big data, when we talk about artificial intelligence, according to me, that granular data has to be there, and that is not coming up. And it's time that all the verticals come up
Ganesh.
together.
I think it will come. The fact that now at least they are sharing triggers based on your own industry. So I've had a chat with the IAB CEO, and it's a question of time.
Great.
The journey has started. I think that was important. There have been discussions on converting that into a corporate environment. My sense is that with Bima Sugam coming in, is there merit in looking at combining these two, etc.? I don't know what's the current thought process, the regulatory, and there could be a possibility, because Bima Sugam will create data. So whether will they share in, because a lot of data will be coming up. At some stage, I'm sure that will happen, because the industry itself will kind of nudge the body to make that happen. And I think today it's the way newer technologies are emerging. I'm sure you would have heard of DeepSeek and what it is doing in the world of technology, right? Some completely one fine day, you announce it, and then it completely disrupts, and people start questioning whether the value and the price and the cost and the valuation, etc. Is that fair enough for even large players like OpenAI, etc. So I think these technologies will keep emerging. To what I said earlier, at what pace are we as an industry adopting them, and are we laggards, or are we at least, if not the first ones, fast followers? That's the least we should do, if not the first one to adopt some of these technologies. And I don't think there's an option. Each one of us will have to do that.
Great. I got one policy level question. It's likely, of course, not in our control. But for example, you spoke about ABHI, ABDHM, etc. Now, for these to work, it has to be at a unified level. Now, in our country, we have got municipal corporations owning some center medical health. Then you have got the state level list, you have got the national level list, right? So now, whether a KM hospital or a SAN hospital comes under municipality or a state, but they are far superior at a national level, probably comparable to an AIMS, according to me. But we are still having the 1950s or 60s ka jo classifications hua hai. So is there anything happening on that, or do you think it's having an impact on the health insurance industry or healthcare industry also?
You're talking about the delivery platform or from a data perspective?
Uh, the structure, the organization structure itself. So that will automatically have an impact on data and delivery.
From a health is something where is a concurrent subject, right? There's a view that the central government can have, but the state has a firm say on this, right? And that's the way constitution is. So I mean, let's not for now assume that anything will change in that context. So states will have a view on that, and so we have to live with that architecture in the country. The question is that if there are some like policy level decisions taken which is right for the country, let's say ABDHM, ABHI, etc., at what pace can all stakeholders kind of agree to this massive, I would say, disruptive effort that all of us should be part of, because the day every Indian citizen will have their own Aadhaar ID and their health records, it is not, by the way, just of quality of healthcare and taking the data. It has much larger impact on how, let's say, I go to the doctor and I present to him or her my entire history of my medical record of last 10 years. The ability of the doctor to diagnose and come up with a treatment versus if I present what is my current symptoms and maybe at best show him physical records of last 2 years, it will be different, right?
True.
So all of it can have very large, massive macro impact if we start getting towards that. So I principally I don't think so anyone will say no, I don't agree with it. The question to be solved is logistically for all these facilities, healthcare facilities, to then adopt technology from a cost perspective and just the change of massive old technology to the new, because to get your technology to kind of be creating data in whatever standard codes that is defined by the government is not a small change. So I think it's the effort required to make that change, etc., and the cost of that, which is a question. But finally, everyone will agree that this is meaningful for the country. So like any other change, Jandhan happened in India, UPI happened in the same country, so I don't see why ABDHM will not happen. So the question is how much time it will take.
That will take care of PHR or EHR according to you?
Both. So see, the way it works in India, the big difference in the way India has a whole net infrastructure of digital public infrastructure, right? So government creates the basic framework and any private entity can come use that framework to create business solutions, right? So it's not that they are saying that I will have one EHR. They'll create the foundational layer or framework for guidelines for EHR and PHRs. Today, many players can come and say, this is my EHR solution, this is my PHR solution. Let the best one win. That's how it will happen.
Super. So my last question to you, the famous one, because now the regulator is talking about 2047, that everybody should be insured, whether it's health or life, and how do we move towards that? You can be talking only from health point of view, that's fair. And if not 2047, where do we see by 2030, another, let's say 5 years, 6 years down the line?
Yeah, I mean, see, health, there are three ways to break up the Indian population. I think similar in life as well. There is that segment of population which I would call just cannot afford health insurance today, because there are many other basic amenities and necessities to look at: food, shelter, education, where the government has decided to fund the Ayushman Bharat beneficiaries, though some states have gone beyond that segment of population, which is good. What, 60-70 maybe crores of people, right? Then
I think that's a beginning. That will help insurance companies. First the prevention takes care,
I'm saying
and
who funds, that is a second question, but there's a funding solution, right? Then on the top there is 30 odd crores people who are actually in the ambit of private insurance today. where who can probably afford health insurance, and then in the middle there is about 40 odd crores people who cannot afford the full benefit. So they can pay, but they need to have affordable health insurance. I think the way to solve the this is solutions for each segment is very different. The lower segment is government is today in some cases funding, some cases with insurance, government scheme, some cases hybrid. How can, as an insurance company, we bring in offerings which can add to the current layer of benefit that the Ayushman Bharat scheme provides, let's say top ups or some of the other benefits like critical illness, etc. But very, very, very affordable, and the funding cannot come from that segment. Funding the government will only have to do. Or if there are people who can say, okay, I can pay a little bit more if you give me very cheap. The missing middle solution is very different. You have to make it in a way that very standard, very simple products, which doesn't need an effort to kind of really explain in the selling process, so it can bring down the cost of distribution. Maybe Bima Sugam could be an answer, I don't know. The whole Bima Vahak and Bima Vistar platform that the regulator has brought in, maybe that can solve the problem. I think because you'll get this large army of women entrepreneurs to become Bima Bahaks, that can solve the problem. It can take it to the last mile in any part of the hinterland of the country. And the top one is more about making sure that the experience issue is resolved. I don't think so it's a product issue. I don't think so it's an intent issue. It's the experience that that segment of consumer is saying, that if I'm buying health insurance, am I getting the experience that I wanted? We solve that experience issue. In all three of these, technology, digital will play a big role, because you cannot solve the problem just by physical solutions, right? If you really want to disrupt and cost is one important aspect also, it has to be solved by leveraging technology. If it is an experience issue, again, technology and leveraging.
What about push to pull?
See that I don't think so we should get too kind of caught up in this issue of push to pull. If the solution is right, consumers will be willing to buy. Gradually, my sense is that as countries kind of move towards being developed, the perception on risk starts becoming more mature, and as India will start becoming a developed country, which is our intent by 2047, as the Prime Minister says, then the population will have more affordability, but also this perception about risk, right? That it starts improving. Risk offerings start moving completely from a offering which was not in their thought process to discretionary, and to be maybe for a large segment an essential part of their overall portfolio. So at least for health insurance, I think that it will start becoming more and more of a reality. The benefit and the experience has to be right.
Very nice. Great views, Mayank. Thanks a lot for your value additions and thought process on this. I appreciate.
Thank you, Ganesh. Thank you for this.